Good afternoon. I'm getting out a little late today. I had chores, both legal and otherwise. Um, I had a good time with Ari last night. I don't know if you saw it or not, but I always enjoy appearing with him because sometimes I feel like the two of us are sitting in a cafeteria discussing a case. And I think he enjoys that when we're in that state. Last night had a little bit of that. Today I'm thinking of criminal law in two phases. One is actual criminal law, and the other is criminal behavior by elected officials. First, about the criminal law. I don't believe this nation should be in the business of executing, not only because it's morally wrong and it makes us equivalent to the criminals who we allege commit the crime, but our system is so imperfect that we just don't get it right. We convict and execute, in my opinion, innocent men, mostly men, occasionally women, and we do it to people who are socioeconomically not able to, if you will, afford justice. That is what it requires in a complicated case like a murder case, to have the kind of counsel to make a difference. Now, you may say, well, what example do you have? There's a great story today that tells everything about the failures of our criminal justice system. And it is a man named Lee spent 22 years in jail in Arkansas for the murder of a woman with a bloody, and they found a bloody handle and a bloody shirt. They never tested it. They found fingerprints at the site. They didn't belong to this fella. This guy had a lawyer who was drunk in court when representing him. There are also conflicts among the people in the case in terms of inconsistencies and so forth. So how does this picture change? Well, before he was executed, he had asked for an ability to study the DNA, to look at the bloody shirt and to look at the club and so forth, and they denied it to him. And after he died, people persisted, including the Innocence Project run by a good friend of mine, Barry Scheck. Brilliant man who's done more good for more people because of his project. And they found that the DNA in the blood on the shirt and the blood on the thing that killed the lady wasn't his. And now they've posted that information. But Mr. Lee is dead. That is why we shouldn't have capital punishment. We can't get it right. We have bias, we have imperfections, we have bad counsel, we have procedures that bar raising issues, even in capital murder cases, and people die who shouldn't die. And you have to have respect for a system of law and order, and I'm going to get to the counter in a minute, or the whole society, the fabric of society breaks down. And, you know, I consider myself somewhat of a renegade, but I accept the fact that we have to change rules and laws for the better, and there are ways to challenge them, and we should do that. And the truth of the matter is, as many times as various groups come forward and say, get this right, they don't do it. And to this moment, the Arkansas governor, Hutchinson, is saying, oh, he was rightly convicted. Really? And how do you prove that? Since there is no evidence of it. So there we have it. So that's one thing that's upsetting to me today. I want to say something about Barry Scheck, though. We were both active in an association called the National Association of Criminal Defense Lawyers. And Barry and I, one evening at a break, were sitting there, and we consumed at least a bottle of wine. And there was a machine nearby, which you punched it, you fight with it, and it determined who was the better fighter. So I wailed at this thing. And then with a little bit of glow from the wine we'd been drinking. And then Barry got up, and because he now didn't have to just beat the machine, he had to beat me. He went at this thing so hard he almost passed out when he finished, and he did beat me. Barry is the guy that you may know from the O.J. Simpson case, who is the expert on DNA. And I once joked to him that I thought I would get more money commenting on the O.J. Simpson case for ABC as I did than he got in payment. And he did it because he really believed in the technology and wanted to test it under fire, and he did. And he's found that Well, when people make the connection between that case and now, he may not be as effective an advocate in court because they have a bias against him because so many people believe that O.J. Simpson did it and these high-priced lawyers got him off. Well, he wasn't high-priced. Anyhow, that's Barry Scheck, and he's done an awful lot of good in his life. Now, on the other side of the criminal docket, we have people in Texas and in Florida, but also other states who are engaged in a criminal conspiracy to tamp down the vote, a constitutional right, under the post-bellum amendments to the Constitution, in my opinion, the Voting Rights Act, and a variety of other acts. We have the equivalent of mobsters in Florida bragging about how they're taking this right from people. And in Texas, the same thing. These people are doing this under cover of night, and they're doing it because they have the numbers, not because they know it's right. They're doing it in contradiction of statutes, of the Constitution, of the common sense, of notions of fair play, which is another way. Fundamental fairness is due process. So what are we going to do about it? Well, here's the thing. Everybody just holds their beads and counts them. Like somehow or other, magically, the truth of the matter is going to emerge and it's going to happen. That is not the way it's going to go on. Luckily, there are groups like ACLU that ignore these petty-fogging politicians who don't do anything, and they're going to court. And they have a good bet of succeeding. Then if you ask members of Congress, they say, well, we got a great bill in the Senate. Yeah, but the Democrats themselves can't get a unified vote to eliminate the 60-vote rule so that it can actually become law. So what does that leave? That leaves us one thing, us. Just as it did in the last election. We have to look for those representatives that we need in the Congress, but in state elections as well, between now and next year, and we have to contribute to them, we have to talk them up, we have to push, as we did in the presidential election, but it's an off-year election which has disfavored always the party in power, except once that I know of. When Clinton was impeached, or they were contemplating impeachment, they lost seats, the Republicans lost seats. So the public can hear. And Biden is presenting a good counterpunch to those people who are for autocracy and randomness and selfishness and for destroying rights and liberties in order to have a lily-white legislature, a lily-white Congress, because they fear what they believe is the horde. Now, the Irish had discrimination, but the color of our skin made it difficult to know today, except when you have a face like mine, that you're Irish. But that's not the current discrimination. The longest history in America for discrimination goes to two groups. One, persons of color. Two, women. And what do we do about it? And what do we do about our criminal justice system? What do we do about guns? What do we do about these things? Our trajectory is good, but we can lose it if we don't get on our horses and ride now for next year and the year after that. We have to win the midterm elections, no question about it. And if we don't, we're setting ourselves up for losing in the general. I mean, I think Florida and Texas alone are 70 electoral votes. That's what they're after. They're after that big one, and they want to get people in place so that they can even manage at the polling places what happens to the votes. So, I don't know, I guess it's not so cheery, but there are two things. One is about our criminal justice system, not so just, and the other is about the criminals in our system who will not understand anything except being prosecuted and penalized and shamed and disgraced. And we don't have enough moralists in America, enough people who respect the law, enough people who are empathetic to others. We have a lot of people in this country that are crude, uncivilized, and betray the promise of America. And this is not new. This is what's happened to democracies before. So I realize this is not a very cheery statement I'm giving, but I think it's truthful and accurate. And the good news is we have time to build on it. The good news is we have an administration that's working in this direction. But some of these people need a kick in the hindquarters to get doing the right thing, and they're holding elective office, and they promised us one thing, and they have to get out there and deliver. So talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.